we have a tradition at our Temple Bethel Seders, of which there have now been Zoom Seders, of which there are now 2, that we start with Judy Aronin just getting us off with this, this incredible Broadway leap. So, so Judy, if you will, and I'd like to ask everyone else, please, to mute yourselves, and we're going to begin.
Chag Sameach, everyone. Here we go, launching Seder number 2 at Temple Bethel on Zoom. Next year, God willing, together with friends and family, hugs and hugs to one and all. Are you ready? A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. There's no Seder like our Seder. There's no Seder I know. Everything about it is halachic. Nothing that the Torah won't allow. Listen how we read the whole Haggadah. It's all in Hebrew because we know how. There's no Seder like our Seder. We tell a tale that is swell. Moses took the people out into the sand. They baked the matzah while on their feet. Now, isn't that a story that just cannot be beat? Let's go on with our Seder. Let's go on with our Seder.
All right. Yeah. I don't know where we go from there. I mean, the rest of it is moot. You know, we've been Ethel Merman. It's like the best. Thank you, Judy, so much.
What about the Have a Matzah Ball tonight? That would be the next song.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So here's the other side of that coin. We're not going to do a lot of parody songs. I mean, everyone can find them. We've been doing them for a long time, and they're great. But we have somewhat of a limited amount of time and we're going to do some singing, absolutely. But we wanted to start with one of the classic parody songs so that we could say, we're not going to do a lot more parody songs. Because, anyway, but they're good. All right, so Cantor, teach us a little about the order of the Seder. And while you do that, I'm going to put in the chat the link for the Haggadah so that everyone can look at the Haggadah that we'll be using, the main Haggadah at home.
So if you want to join me for the order of the Seder, there's this tune that we sing to kind of go through the Seder, and it has the different, we can do hand motions for it. So we have Kadesh, where we're going to bless the wine, Urchatz, where we wash our hands, Karpas, where we dip, Yachatz, where we break the middle matzah, Magid, where we tell the story. Then we have Rachza, where we wash again, Motzi, matzah, okay? Then we have maror, we make a bitter face. Korech, all of a sudden, the sandwich, korech. And then we have shulchan orech, our table and our meal. Tzafun, and barech, tzafun is with finding our afikomen. Barech, we'll bless. Hallel, and nirtza, the end. So we kind of run out of hand signs at the end, but you can do this along with me. So we have Kadesh, Urchatz, Karpas, Yachatz, Magid, Rachza, Motzi, Matzah, Maror, Korech, Shulchan Orech, Tzafun, Barech, we bless, Hallel, Nirtza. And now we begin.
We know our parts, and we're going to go through much of the Seder, not quite in the order imagined by the rabbis, because we won't be doing the festive meal all together. We're going to sort of park that. But let's move along, and just wanted to let's see, first of all, okay, so just a reading to get us started. This is going to be in many ways a bittersweet affair, but we should talk about how important it is to gather, because it's been a while since we've all been together physically. The people gathered. They did not assemble in pews, did not congregate in the foyer. They did not linger over the oneg table for another cup of the sisterhood's famous punch, which is merely ginger ale and sherbet, but is magically transformed into a divine elixir when consumed in the service of celebrating Shabbat. The people gathered, though no cars jockeyed for space in the parking lot, though hugs and kisses and handshakes were not exchanged. Verbal greetings were from afar sufficed. The people gathered as weeks stretched into months, and the months stretched into a year. Living room sofas and dining room tables and office desks became our mikdashei ma'at, our personal sanctuaries. We looked at the assortment of windows, took an accounting of our community, welcomed new faces, reconnected with friends from afar. At times, we lamented the loss of our old manner of gathering, but we rejoiced in the new spaces of holiness that we have been able to construct. For we have learned it is not the places that confer holiness upon us. Rather, it is we who imbue places with holiness. So until we can once again bask in the holiness of being physically present with one another, let us rejoice in our sacred community, still bound by heart and spirit, and let us derive strength from one another. I think that conveys how we all feel tonight. Yes, we're sad about so many things, but so happy that we're all here together. But do stay muted. Okay, so Cantor, why don't you lead us in the Kiddush? And if there are any elders in the congregation who would like to also be shown on screen, although only the Cantor will be heard, please, and everyone who has wine, stand up and help with the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, ורוממנו מכל לשון, וקידשנו במצוותיו. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, מועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון. את יום חג המצות הזה, זמן חירותנו, מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ומועדי קודשך בשמחה ובששון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש ישראל והזמנים.
Amen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Amen.
Amen.
So we have some discussion cards. First of all, take a drink. And as I said, we're going to try to make this as active an experience as possible, given the limitations of singing together, which we can't do as well on Zoom. So these cards are great, but I just want to look at the one on the left. We should spill a bit of wine on the tablecloth. These are yes or no, true or false, basically just give your gut reaction. True, it makes people more comfortable and less nervous, especially guests. false. Don't waste food. Spills are messy. So I must confess to you that right before we began our Seder, I spilled a little bit of wine. I'm going to tell you it was intentional. Maybe not. But in the main, you may put in the chat whether you think that a good host, and this is actually in a Hasidic story where the rabbi spills some wine. So again, a good host will want to make his guests or her guests feel comfortable. So is it appropriate to spill a little bit of wine at the beginning of the Seder? Put in the chat, and we're going to continue with Urechatz. So, okay. So you can see we have our Haggadah, the one that I gave you the link for, and we're going to follow the path of the Seder. So here's Urechatz. The ritual hand washing prepares us for eating finger foods, the karpas, the hors d'oeuvres of the Pesach banquet, sanctifying the art of eating. Now, the idea of washing hands, of course, has become a whole different experience for us this year. So I've got my Purell, and this is how I'm doing Urechatz in honor of this year. Okay, and Joan, I know that you unmuted. I'm sorry, I remuted you, but I know you have a reading here. So right. Joan Rosenthal?
Okay.
Go for it.
As we wash our hands, we pray. Blessed is the soul of the universe, breathing us in and breathing us out. May our breaths continue and our health and the health of all be preserved in this time of sickness and fear of sickness. Holy wholeness. We take as much responsibility for this as we can by observing the obligation to wash our hands thoroughly for as long as it takes to say this prayer. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav u'v'tzivanu al hatilat yadayim.
Amen.
I just wanted to say that somebody always spills the wine. You don't have to do it intentionally. It's inevitable.
Now I feel a lot better. So what's interesting, in terms of the Urechatz, we didn't do we did the blessing, which normally traditionally isn't done. But I think that doing the blessing for washing hands, because of what we've been through this year and the life-saving aspect of washing hands, is most appropriate. And so one thing, if you're tired of writing about spilling wine in the chat box, here's your next chat box moment. Has the ritual of washing hands changed for you this past year? Have, you gotten, let's say, more obsessed about cleanliness? And has that been a good thing? Is it now much more next to godliness than it ever was for you before? All right, so now we're going to move on to Karpas. And so here we are. So we have the first dipping, and we're going to take the parsley, if you have any. This is the symbol of spring, reminds us that the life of the universe continues its cycle of death and rebirth, even as we've been through an endless March 2020 that is now maybe coming to an end in March 2021. The new green sprouts break through the lingering shroud of winter. Still, we dip the hopes of spring into the salt water of current loss. And so we will say the blessing, and I have salt water here. You see the blessing on the screen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'adama. Amen. So as I think I mentioned in the email that sent out ahead of time, this is your hors d'oeuvre. It doesn't need to be a piece of parsley. We are going to hold back on the dinner portion until after the Seder. You'll be eating dinner at home. L'chaim. On your own after the Seder. So if you are hungry at all, please pass the chips. anything that can be dipped can be part of this dipping hors d'oeuvre part of the Seder. Now, there's a new custom that I want to highlight for you that, that we have. And this is a custom, you know how we spill wine when we do the 10 plagues? Well, the custom this year is to spill a little bit of water. And part of that is because despite the sadness, the tears of our slavery this year, there are things that we need to be grateful for. So we diminish our sadness. And I'm just going to read it, but please, of course, read along. Salt water on the Seder table symbolizes sadness, tears shed in slavery. In this ritual, we remove a drop of salt water from a cup as we reflect upon the life lessons we have gleaned throughout this long pandemic year. As we reflect upon the year that passed, may we recall the precious lessons that have given new meaning to our lives. 1, patience grows into hope. 2, time with loved ones must never be taken for granted. 3, we are stronger than we ever thought possible. 4, hugs and physical contact are irreplaceable. 5, gratitude can reorient our perspective. 6, local businesses are our neighbors and friends. They need our support. 7, nature is a window into the divine, secrets of life and rejuvenation unfolding before our eyes. 8, our communities are fuel for meaning and support. 9, trust in healthcare and frontline workers, the backbone of our society. 10, nothing can replace good health. 11, faith in God will see us through. All these lessons of hope. And once again, into the chat, and actually take a minute to talk, if people are at your table with you, or just talk to yourself if you're alone. Think of 1, 2, 3 people over the past year who restored your faith in humanity, who did something that just changed your life. Maybe it's the person who bagged your groceries. Maybe it's the person who delivers your mail, or the who collects your garbage, or whatever. But someone who was a real hero, who gave you a lesson in hope. So put that, talk about it, and if you want to put it in the chat, do that. I'm going to give you 1 minute. I won't even do the Jeopardy song. And meanwhile, I'm going to read some of the things we have in the chat. I see a lot of yes, 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 in terms of spilling wine. It makes people feel welcome, okay to spill, makes those who spill more comfortable. Spills should be only accidental, no need to make a mess intentionally. Yes, spill some. Spill, it's not Passover Seder unless someone spills their wine. It's inevitable. We got a lot of spillers. Great idea, I spilled water on the Seder table. That was the water. I would have felt better if there had been already been spill. So someone really messed up by not by spilling wine at that Seder. And spill the wine, make sure the tablecloth is washable or disposable, although we're not into disposable. All right, so if you want to add any more into the chat about someone who changed your life this year, and if also mention if you'd like to talk about that person, that's something we could definitely do. All right, so we now move on, get back to our Haggadah. So we've done Karpas Yachatz, breaking the middle matzah. Now I have to tell you that we got a $25 box of Shmura matzah from the supermarket. And actually that was a good price. I've seen some that's been like outrageous, but they did a special favor to us. Just like, you know how sometimes when you get the, a chicken or turkey pre-carved, to the bone. Well, basically my matzah was pre-broken. So I've got it right here. The middle matzah, I put it into my afikomen bag. I'm going to hide it for later, and none of you will find it except maybe Dan or Mara, who are in the house. And they're the only ones who are going to get presents from me tonight. Okay, so let's continue. Well, we've done Yachatz, and there's a reading here that the Sigmund family has. You guys ready to do
Yeah.
Yachatz reading? All right. So go for it. Hold on, Marcel.
Sophie's gonna represent us. Go ahead, Sophie. I do not want you in my house. I do not want you or your spouse. I do not want to eat with you. Seder 1 or Seder 2. Don't get me wrong, I think you're nice, but the CDC gave out this advice. You must avoid one plague more and shoo Elisha from your door.
Okay, and just in case you forget where that came from, we're not canceling the guy. Social distancing, this was from last year's Seder, but still absolutely makes sense to do now. So thank you, Sophie, that was great. And now we are moving on to Magid. We're going to start to tell the Passover story. So let's see, here we are. And we tell the story by beginning with the Halachma Anya passage, which starts off the telling, really this is the essence of the Seder. We're starting off in Aramaic, sort of the language of the past, the language of the street of ancient Israel, and the language of slavery. And then as we move through the Seder, we're going to break in more Hebrew and speak in terms of less in terms of slavery, but in terms of the dawn of redemption and of hope. And of course, we end with next year in Jerusalem. That's the roadmap we are going to follow. And this is so important that we, through this electronic void, we can hurl our words of hope and connection to those near and far. It is not good to be alone. And halachma anya, although we can't necessarily welcome people off the street as we would normally, or at least in a symbolic sense, all who are hungry should be able to join us. We can, through this electronic means, welcome people to our Seder. And we'll be doing the 4 cups of wine. We did one already, representing 4 freedoms. And they are freedom from fear, freedom to hope, freedom from inequality, and the freedom to care. Halachma. Cantor?
Halachma anya di achalu avahatana be'er ad mitzrayim kod ichfin yete v'yechol kod itzrich yete v'yifsach השתה החל שנה הבאה בארד ישראל קוד יכפין יתה ויכול קוד צריך יתה ויפסח השתה עבדי לשנה הבאה בני חורים.
And let's all read together. Muted. This is the bread of poverty and persecution. By the way, you should remove the covering of the matzah so we can actually point to it. As it says in the Torah, 7 days you shall eat matzot, so that you may remember that you were a slave in Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are in need come and share the Pesach meal. This year, we are still here. Next year, in the land of Israel. This year, we are slaves. Next year, free people. Amnon Rebeck wrote, everybody needs an Egypt and one long journey that they'll remember forever on the soles of their feet. Sort of like Abraham Joshua Heschel talking about his feet praying. That journey we're taking from Egypt now is that journey of our feet praying. We're going to do something a little different. I say that a lot, don't I? I'm going to try this. No guarantees. We're going to do a word cloud. And so this is what I'm asking you the question here. What 3 items would you take with you from Egypt? Now, you're going to see an address appear, email address, www.menti.com. And the code is here, 43286780. You'll see that on your screen. If all goes well, then our collective answers will appear in a word cloud. God willing, everyone can answer 3 entries. I mean, actually, you can answer 3 times. What 3 items would you bring with you if you could bring nothing else from Egypt? You had to drop everything. You can only bring 3 things. And you can answer more than 1 time. 3 things, several times, because I know there are more than 1 person at many of the Seders. Let's see if this worked. You'll have a minute to answer. So you have to go to this website, punch in the number, give your answers. Let's see if this works. You should all be like going on your cell phone. Yes, the rabbi's telling you to do this.
Rabbi, it says voting is closed on my end.
Okay, then we're having a problem. I told you it might
Just
not
put them
work.
in the chat.
Yeah, you could just put them,
in the chat.
3 things. You know,
We will figure that out. It's a good.
We only wasted 40 seconds. Not too bad. All right. So now let's move along. And thank you for letting me know that. We would have been sitting here. Now, I do believe there is something that we've been waiting for that kids are involved with. Is that possible?
I have one.
Is there a child here?
There is. On a show too. This is, I don't know if you, oh gosh, these virtual backgrounds, you can't see unless it's like in front of me. I guess you can't. Oh, wait. This is our Afikoman, beautiful Afikoman.
That I made.
Vivian, that is an amazing
Gonna
bag.
get eaten.
I would put my middle matzah into that bag anytime. That's a great bag.
So you can be close.
All right.
So-
So by the way, do we have others who might want to help out with like the beginning? I had asked 1 or 2 people, and you can put in the chat or raise your hand if there is a family that, you know, has a child available who would like to help. All right. I think, Vivian, you are it. Go for it.
מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה הוא לא מצה. הלילה הזה הוא לא מצה, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שאר ירקות, שאר ירקות. הלילה הזה מרור מרור. הלילה הזה מרור מרור. שבכל הלילות אין אנו מטבילים אפילו פעם אחת, אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה שתי פעמים. הלילה הזה שתי פעמים. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים יושבינו עולים מסובים, ויושבינו מסובים. הלילה הזה כולנו מסובים. הלילה הזה כולנו מסובים.
All right, that was wonderful. So which one is your favorite of all the questions?
The first.
And do you have like any other questions? I understand there's a cantor in the room. You can answer them. and I have a third question. I should have four, but I have a third question for you. How can you not be getting wet right now?
In the virtual background of the sea.
That's right. Do you like seeing your mom disappear?
Yeah.
Okay.
She has the power to not to become invisible, I guess, and I have the power to stay unwet. That is the answer to
That the power to stay on wet and to be visible, which is one of the most important lessons we all need to learn about Pesach. Wow. So, thank you. So, Susan Schneiderman, do you have a reading there?
Yeah, we do.
Wow.
Are you unmuted? Oh, you are.
Yeah, I am muted.
Okay.
Yes, we
Go
have a
for it.
reading
Halo.
and we're going to take turns.
Who's reading?
All right, and I'll show people this as well.
Okay,
Whoops.
Patrick.
In a minute.
From making a difference from a distance. A highlight of the Passover Seder is Magid, telling the story of Exodus from Egypt. Questions are our springboard to explore how this night is different from all other nights. This year, around the world, Passover will be different from all others. In this time of global pandemic, our lives have been disrupted in significant ways, and we find ourselves asking questions we may not otherwise have ever thought to ask. Tonight, we bring our questions to the table with hopes to gain wisdom and understanding.
How is this night different from other nights? On all other nights we eat chametz, leavened food, and matzah. Why on this night only matzah? Just as the Israelites hastily baked matzah as they left Egypt, many of us recently made hasty preparations for an unknown journey. How did your rush to prepare shape your feelings of readiness for the journey ahead? How do we gather enough provisions while making sure everyone can assess what they need? Access what they need. Thank you. Lowell.
Shebekol halilot anu ochlin she'ar yirakot halayla hazeh kulo maror. On all other nights we eat all vegetables. Why on this night only bitter herbs? Being in restricted and narrow places reminds us that many things are beyond our control. How can we remain aware of those around us who were already struggling and now must navigate this time too?
Continue with 3. You're doing well.
All right. Shebechol halilot ein anu ma'ilin afilu pa'am echad. Halayla hazeh shetei pa'amim. On all other nights we don't dip even once. Why on this night do we dip twice? When we dip twice in salt water, it reminds us of the abundance that we celebrate in the spring, as well as the salty tears of those experiencing scarcity. How can we identify both material and non-material abundance, knowing every person has something to contribute? Can offering gratitude shape our approach to moving through challenging days?
Mom, take us home.
Shebekol halilot anu ochlin b'nei yoshvim u'vei mesubim halayla hazeh kulanu mesubim. On all of the nights we eat by the sitting upright or reclining. Why on this night do we all recline? How do we recognize and share our own privilege in moments like these? How do we share our surplus with those who are increasingly vulnerable? Can we zoom out beyond our personal narrative in this moment and find our role in the broader collective of who makes up our community?
So pass your
Okay.
sheets, Phil.
Thank you so much. So we just had another potential helper enter the room. And Evan, are you there?
Yes,
Oh, wait,
Sophia.
Sophia?
Hello.
Okay. Would you like to do the first question, Sophia?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Right over there, sweetie. Okay, ready?
Give me this. Just say it.
On all other nights.
Louder.
Louder, so I can hear. On
On
all,
all my nights,
we eat chametz,
it's
and matzah. Why on this night? Why on this night? Only matzah.
All right.
Totally.
Oh my good, that was so good. I am so impressed. So now we're going to start telling the story. And you might notice that I have a different background. I mean, you know, Charlton Heston at the Red Sea can take you just so far. This is actually a Seder from the Warsaw Ghetto. And of course, they did observe Passover during that time. Jews were hardly free, but they were able to make matzah, and they were able to sing the songs of freedom. And we can only imagine what it would have been like for them to have a Seder in this situation back then. I want you to see the Seder table. It was decked out as beautifully as they possibly could during that time. So that helps us to begin telling the story of freedom. Avadim hayinu, we were slaves in Egypt. And Cantor, why don't you lead us in that?
Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, b'nei chorin.
And just to continue, hold on one second. Avadim hayinu, we were slaves in the land of Egypt. L'Pharaoh b'Mitzrayim v'yotzienu Adonai misham biyad chazaka v'zro enetuyah. And God took us out with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. So I've asked our good friend, Dr. Reverend Michael Christie, to expound a bit. We have a reading for Avadim hayinu, and then also for him to maybe share a little. We have developed this incredible friendship between us, but also between our congregations this year. And it's such a thrill to have him here with us. So if you can unmute yourself.
I am unmuted. But I need someone to read as I'm in the car.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? I really recommend not reading in the car.
Yes.
So, you know, I will do the reading and then you'll do the talking.
Yes.
That's probably the best plan here. Hold on one second. Avadim hayinu leFaro b'Mitzrayim. We were slaves in Egypt, to Pharaoh in Egypt. I'm sorry, was someone reading? Okay. Jews are a people of memory and action. On Passover, we use stories and rituals to remember and retell the narrative of our collective liberation. We share the ancient Exodus story year after year so that it resonates through the generations as a narrative of deliverance from slavery to freedom. In Hebrew, Egypt is called Mitzrayim, which means a narrow place. Every year, the Haggadah asks us not only to share the story of the Exodus, but challenges us to actively engage in the process of combating oppression. We are encouraged to connect the biblical story of Exodus to communal and individual struggles for liberation, and are reminded that the fight for freedom is ongoing. Let's discuss the process of Exodus, moving from a narrow place to a place of freedom. Every day, people fight for freedom on interpersonal, systemic, global, and local levels. What are modern struggles for liberation? Discuss the following questions, either in pairs or as a group, to inspire thought, conversation, and action. When you think the text starts with "we were slaves," why do you think the text starts with "we were slaves" instead of "our ancestors were slaves"? How does this quote from Martin Luther King Jr., "No one is free until we all are free," connect to Avadim hayinu? How are we free today? How are we still struggling? Share something that you are doing or can commit to doing to help move yourself or others from a narrow place to a place of shared freedom. Reverend Christie, the road is
Yes.
yours.
Thank you, my good friend, Rabbi Josh. And it's my joy to be with all of you and to share the Seder with you. I am so honored, and thank you for this invitation. When I hear the reading, it makes me really reflect on the gift that has been given to the Jewish people. From all the trauma of slavery and for everything that has happened and you've been through that, you've been gifted to steward freedom. And as it said, to cultivate liberation back then and even now. And when I remember we did the program together with Reverend Michelle, I didn't pronounce that correctly, so forgive me. The rabbi that marched with Dr. King, he said that really his experience from the camps allowed him not to forget those that are suffering, and essentially those that are also in some kind of bondage and slavery. The story reminds me that God has gifted you God's power of redemption. And there's this interesting paradox that has occurred. The paradox that you're not just free from suffering, but you're able to carry the pain and purpose. You're able to carry the burden and the gift. You're able to carry the mourning and the celebration that occurred in this. And in this journey of struggle, in this journey from slavery to freedom, God gives us clarity and purpose and helps us to reconnect with that clarity and purpose. And then finally, as we speak up today, and all the domination systems that have occurred, and in some ways we're a slave to it. All the ism, sexism, racism, ageism, all of the and the plague, which is wrapped up in the 10 plagues now in COVID, as we struggle with that, we still can hold on to God's grace and God's freedom and look forward to his redemption through all of this. So I am honored to be a part of your city tradition that reminds you of God called you as stewards of freedom in this land of oppression. Blessings to you. Thank you.
Blessing. Thank you so much. We look forward to traveling on this road together. The one that you're symbolically and actually literally on right now as we go forward. And we know that there is a lot that there is a lot of fighting that we all need to do to achieve the kinds of freedoms we hope for in our world. So thank you so much again. We are now heading to a part of the Seder, which really is more of not so much the story, but a meta story. It's not the story itself, but how do you tell the story? So we have the 4 children, whether you call them the 4 sons, the 4 daughters, the 4 whatever, it doesn't matter. But I have put in the chat several different interpretations of the 4 children. So what I'd like you to do, there's one for climate change. There's one that says modern. I'm actually going to put 2 more in. There's one that's sort of, here we go. There's one that's the 4 daughters. There's one for COVID. And there's one that's a special 5th child dealing with the problem of gun violence, which of course we deal with this week. Maybe I can get that better. And what I'd like you to do is take a minute in your own groups to click on any of these and just talk about it among yourselves. And I'm going to put one up on the screen here for those who would prefer just to hang out with the with the whole group. Okay, so go to the chat, click on one of them. Hopefully it will work. better than the word cloud. It does put you into some photos that I've taken that hopefully you won't need, that are password protected. Go ahead though, for a minute. So here's the 4 children for COVID. The inquisitive child asks, why are people getting sick? Discuss how the Seder teaches us that the highest expression of freedom is the ability to ask why. Help your children understand that illness is a part of life. The compassionate child asks, what can I do to keep myself and others healthy and safe? Discuss how we are all interdependent. Talk about best practices for hygiene, social distancing, and solidarity. The worried child asks, what if the virus keeps spreading and never stops? And by the way, a year later, we still aren't throwing that question out the window. Discuss how to manage fears and anxieties related to our schools, synagogues, and the broader world. Talk about ways to stay socially connected, mindful, grounded, and engaged in the present moment. And the resilient child asks, when this crisis is over, how can we prevent it from happening again? Discuss the ways in which Jewish tradition requires us to understand our past in order to build a better future. Talk about the courage it takes to recover from a challenging time and make new choices for everyone to stay healthy. As Rabbi Nachman writes, all new beginnings require that you unlock a new door. So I don't know if anyone would like to comment again in the chat or point toward any of the particular children you found interesting. And while we are doing that.
Rabbi?
Yeah, hi, Sandy.
We've just joined you.
Hi.
And I'm going to share a thought, and I apologize if it's been shared before about the children. We, years ago, began to discuss how each child is a composite of different personalities and different whims. So on one day you can be inquisitive, on another day you could be very, very quiet. So we spoke at our Seder tonight as to how each child can seek to emulate that which is moving toward a better person, becoming more of a Shem Tov, a good name, and trying to learn. And the boys came up with the fact that, you know, maybe you go from a simple son to a wise son through learning and asking questions. And so we do one child, different characteristics.
Right. So I think, you know, the fact that these are transitional and they are not permanent and we shouldn't stereotype our children for all time is a very important point to make. So I'd like to ask, you know, since we've opened the mics, if anyone else would like to, this would be a great opportunity. Meanwhile, I'm going to show you some of the art representing the 4 children that's found in our Haggadah. You can see from different Haggadahs throughout the ages, this one being from Poland, 1939, and the wicked child looks suspiciously historical on the upper left. You can see some of the interesting ways, though, that it really is just an attempt to try to come to grips with an impossible task, which is to inculcate to young children in a very long, drawn-out process the ideals of our people, to transmit the culture. So this is from pre-state Palestine in Israel in early Israeli history, 1955. You can see that the wise certainly doesn't wear a tie. In fact, the evil son, the wicked son is the one who's dressed like a capitalist, because it was a very socialist society. And you can see some of the other options that are given here in some of the Haggadahs. This is the one I think that gets to the point that you were saying. that we have each of the 4 children in each of us. Here are the 4 children as books. 4 children. This is from America in 1920, where the wicked child is a boxer. The fact that Jews were very involved in boxing. The wicked children, the 4 children as Marx Brothers. Anyway, so you can see that, and let's move beyond the 4 children now. And I hope some of you got the chance to look at the 5th child, which was about gun violence, because we certainly have a lot to talk about there. So all right, so I'm going to ask that everyone please mute again, and we're going to page 35 of our Haggadah, V'hi she'amda. Cantor, do you want to do this, or am I doing this? I forgot. I'm doing it. Okay.
You are.
This is like an old Hammerman custom. I love this song. V'hi she'amda lavoteinu v'lanu. V'hi she'amda lavoteinu v'lanu. Shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalotenu. Ele shebchol dor vador omdim aleinu lechalotenu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam. And we're lifting the cup for that. The matzah and the wine tend to be, interplay. We cover the matzah when we raise the cup. For our enemy, not just one enemy has stood against us to wipe us out, but in every generation there have been those who have stood against us. Yet the Holy One, blessed be God, has saved us from each. Okay, so I think we should sing a song, Cantor. What do you want? Let my people go, or?
Sure.
Or if I had a Hammerman.
Crowd favorite? I don't know.
Right, no, let's go with it.
When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go.
Oh, let's do one more time.
No more shall they in bondage toil, let my people go. Let them come out with Egypt's spoil, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go.
And here's a modern interpretation. Not with a strong hand and not with an outstretched arm, and not with great awe, not with signs and not with wonders, rather hesitantly, with small steps, terrified by darkness, softly, dedicated, purposefully, with accuracy and love, carrying little signs like the wrinkles of passing time, the transition of seasons, my changing body, the pearls of my longing. And some have said that signs and wonders aren't good enough, just like thoughts and prayers, but that in fact they stand for picket signs and perseverance. So the question is, what are the signs and wonders that we are looking for? What are we standing up for? And this is a good time to sing If I Had a Hammer.
If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out a warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. brothers and my sisters all over this land. Ooh, if I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land. Ooh, well, I've got a hammer and I've got a bell and I've got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's a song about love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land, all over this land.
Okay. So you can see I have a new background now. This is from a Haggadah from Barcelona in the 1300s. Just to show you the expanse of the Passover experience, 4,000 Haggadahs and some of the most beautiful illuminated manuscripts. You can see the kids are there in the middle. You didn't have kids depicted in medieval art that much as kids, but they're so central to the Seder. So now we're coming to the 10 plagues. And if we can, let's see, let's precede the 10 plagues with this reading. Hope, are you doing this reading?
I'm happy to.
Oh, wait, what did I gave you a reading?
Well, you sent me, then I sent back that I couldn't click on the link, but so I'm happy
this
to do
is the
whatever.
one that you couldn't click on.
What?
So,
Yes.
right. So before we get to the plagues, we're going to take a moment to talk about the losses from this plague.
Okay, so you
can you read it? Is it a little too?
No, it's fine. It's
okay.
Fine. A light in the darkness. This year, in addition to kindling the holiday lights, we light a Yortzeit candle to remember all that was lost this past year. In the beginning, when there was just darkness, God declared, "Let there be light," and there was light. In an instant, the darkness disappeared, and that radiance spread throughout the world. God's first act of creation was to bring light into the darkness, to illuminate the world. With this candle, we follow God's example, extinguishing the darkness and sharing the light. Over this past year, we have lost so much. It has been a year in which we were forced to live apart from one another, maintaining a social distance to protect ourselves and those around us. It has been 12 months and we have missed so many moments, times of joy and sadness when we could not gather together. For 365 days, we have woken up each morning with the threat of a pandemic hanging over our heads, fearing the news and saddened by the rising death toll. Tonight, as we reflect on all that has been lost over this past year, we light this Yortzeit candle as a sign of our mourning and a commitment to the future. We light this candle and mourn for the moments that we have missed. Graduations that could not take place, vacations and summer camps we could not enjoy, life cycle events that were unrecognizable. So many moments that were canceled, postponed, or drastically different from what we had anticipated. We light this candle and mourn for the everyday experiences that were lost, the meals we could not share, the hugs and embraces we could not give and receive, the moments of community and gathering that could not take place. We light this candle and mourn for all the lives that have been lost, the hundreds of thousands who have lost their lives to this dreadful disease, the countless frontline workers and caregivers who gave their lives so that others could live, all of those who have died in these last 12 months and for whom we could not mourn as we would have wanted. But we also light this candle as a symbol of hope. Despite the separation, we have found ways to come together. In the midst of suffering, we have cared for one another. In the shadow of death, we have found ways for life to continue. We take a moment now to name those moments and the people that we have lost so we can remember.
And I invite you, if you'd like to unmute. This is a memorial moment that I think we have to have as we come to the conclusion of that first year. So if you'd like to mention a name, either in the chat or out loud, I've lit the candle for you.
Dylan Bruckner.
Claire Stanger, Jordan Stanger, Shelley Kay.
Stratton Adams, Spencer Wallen.
Steve Eisenstein.
All right, let's now go to the 10 plagues. And it's so strange that we have this custom of spilling wine, even as we should be celebrating. The angels were even celebrating the deaths and the suffering of our enemies. But in fact, when we spill a drop of wine, it's to show that they are still God's creatures. And so we join together and we do that. And again, please re-mute. Cantor, do you want to do it or you want me to? Or we'll do it together. Dam. Sephardea.
Ardea.
Enim.
Enim lice.
Right.
I got it.
Arov.
Wild beasts.
Dever.
Cattle plague.
Ching.
Boils.
Arad.
Hail.
Arbe.
Locust.
Koshech.
Darkness.
Makat Bechorod.
Death of the firstborn.
Okay, so even though and there are modern 10 plagues that I'm just going to, if I can do this, put up on the screen, and you can take a moment to read these on your own and maybe take a moment to discuss them with those in your pod. Whoever is with you, just read these on your own, because these are plagues that we're trying to battle right now. Homelessness, hunger, inequality, racial injustice, discrimination and hatred, environmental destruction, stigma of mental illness, ignoring refugees, powerlessness. Anyone would like to add any plagues?
Just makes me think about, is there a difference between plagues that we think are brought on by God or by divine power, or plagues that are brought on by us? Environmental destruction and some of the paradigm shift of where that comes from. But I think the answer is repair on our part for all of it. So maybe it doesn't matter.
I'd like
No,
to add
absolutely.
one on. Can I add one on?
Please.
Separating parents from children. Want to add that?
Yeah. Anyone else?
Police brutality.
Okay.
In the chat, we have bullying, gun violence, polarized society.
You mentioned environmental plagues, so here's a whole list.
Yeah, like poisoning.
The Seder does take us on quite a ride, a roller coaster of emotions, when done right. And I'm not saying this is being done right or whatever. It's, you know, we're doing the best we can given our circumstances, but we should always be engaged. You know, the idea of the Maxwell House Seder, where you do every word and stay up till midnight and not understand a word of what's going on, that's not what the Seder was all about. So we now go from the plagues to this uplifting moment, this moment of Dayenu, which actually isn't totally uplifting because it's saying we're never satisfied. It would have been enough, but really, it's a great negotiating standpoint. It's saying it would have been enough to get the 10 commandments, but not be allowed into the land of Israel. But really, would it have been enough? I don't think so. I think we
Rabbi, can I just throw in one thought?
Yeah, but I can you put it in the chat, Sandy? I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, sure, no
I'm
problem.
encouraging people to do that. Just we'll have moments for
Okay.
discussion. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's continue with Dayenu.
Ilu hotzianu mi Mitzrayim hotzianu mi Mitzrayim dayenu 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 Ilu natan lanu et hashabbat natan lanu et hashabbat dayenu 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 Ilu natan lanu et haTorah natan lanu et haTorah dayenu 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 dayenu.
All right.
All right.
Leslie and Joe, do you have a reading for us?
We do.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you. Where are you?
We're in, it looks like we're in outer space or something, but we're in a room, our playroom, where we have an extender, and I guess it's kind of cloudy in this room. You can hear us, huh?
Yeah, no, we can hear you. Absolutely, we can hear, but it looks like you've clouded over Joe's face so that he won't be identified, you know.
Anyhow.
Yeah, we're going in and out here.
No, keep going. All right.
Okay.
The poem is Dayenu, Enough God by Rabbi Naomi Levy.
How do you want to do it?
Go ahead.
Or- Yeah, okay.
Let all who are ill find healing. Dayenu. Let our worries be calmed. Dayenu. Let the weak and the vulnerable be protected. Dayenu. Let all healers find paths to healing. Dayenu. Let scientists grasp a higher knowing that will lead to a cure.
Dayenu.
Let there be an end to this plague, God. Dayenu. Fill our hearts with hope and our souls with faith, our bodies with health and our homes with love. Unite our world to bring on a day of freedom. Let the seeds of rebirth take root tonight and grow in blessings in your light. Dayenu, enough God. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so you are on a roll, and now as we head into the next part of the story, I'd love for you to read this too. This is an interesting commentary on some of the truths of Passover, written by a Jew of color.
I'll do the first.
For what you want to do?
You do it.
Okay. For an African American Jew, Passover is bound up in both the collective spiritual and religious moment of national emancipation and freedom, and the social reality that, as James Baldwin wrote, the Jewish travail occurred across the sea and America rescued him from the house of bondage. But America is the house of bondage for the Negro, and no country can rescue him. Got it?
These two conflicting truths make it difficult to reconcile the divide of communal celebration with the greater American Jewish whole, and the despair when that self-same community refuses to acknowledge the vast difference of circumstance of a legacy not even 2 centuries abolished or even fully extinct. And to that resistance against our voices and experiences being heard, African-American Jews and Jews of color as a whole are robustly declaring Dayenu.
Dayenu. I just think it's so important as we move forward with so much going on in our society that this Seder be meaningful to us in helping us to understand that when our ancestors, meaning at least my Ashkenazi Jewish ancestors, came to this country 100 years ago, a little over than that, they saw the Statue of Liberty, and that was a symbol of freedom for them, that they had escaped their persecution. And indeed, they escaped the Holocaust by coming over here then. But the ancestors of those who are still suffering to this day to maintain and gain voting rights, not to mention other freedoms, they never even saw the Statue of Liberty. It didn't exist yet when the first came over. But as people came over the centuries, it was to their persecution and not from it. And yet there is so much that the Jewish and African-American experiences share that is so important for us to remark upon at this particular Seder. So now we're going to get into the symbolism of the Seder, and in particular, Pesach, Maror, and Matzah. So here we go. Rabban Gamliel used to say, all who have not explained the significance of we're going all the way back to Dayenu. 3 things during the Passover Seder have not fulfilled their duty. They are the Pesach lamb, you can see here, matzah, and maror, the bitter herbs. Why the Pesach lamb? So we have to do this in order to fulfill our duty. The Passover lamb that our ancestors ate in the days of the temple, why did we used to eat it? So everyone read together to remind ourselves that God passed over our ancestors' houses in Egypt at this very hour, on this very day. All right, so we're now going. Why this matzah? Everyone hold up matzah.
Matzah, here we go. Woo.
Hold up your matzah. Why do we eat it? To remind ourselves that even before the dough of our ancestors in Egypt had time to rise and become leavened, the sovereign of sovereigns, the Holy One, revealed God's self and redeemed them. And now, why this maror?
I have to show you this maror.
Oh, whoa, you got. I got.
Can everyone see my maror?
Oh, you got,
yes, a little intense.
You got like the county fair winning maror.
I definitely
and
did.
I got like this is the maror that Stop and Shop put out at the last minute to get rid of the maror. All right, to remind ourselves, the Egyptians embittered our ancestors' lives. And now, behold, Vador, in every generation, one is obligated to see oneself as one personally went out from Egypt. Judy, keep reading. Just as it says.
Just as it says, you shall tell your child on that very day, it is because of this that God did for me when I went out from Egypt. Not only were our ancestors redeemed by the Holy One, blessed be our Redeemer, but even we were redeemed with them. Just as it says, God took us out from there in order to bring us and to give us the land God swore
And this reading from our Haggadah by Viktor Frankl I find to be really, really important. One day, a few days after the liberation, he wrote, I walked through the country past flowering meadows for miles and miles toward the market town near the camp. Of course, he was in the camps. Larks rose to the sky and I could hear their joyous song. There was no one to be seen for miles around. There was nothing but the wide earth and sky, the lark's jubilation, and the freedom of space. I stopped, looked around and up to the sky, and then I went down on my knees. At that moment, there was very little I knew of myself or of the world. I had but one sentence in mind, always the same. I called to Adonai from my narrow prison, and God answered me in the freedom of space. How long I knelt there and repeated this sentence. Memory can no longer recall, but I know that on that day and that hour, my new life started. Step for step, I progressed until I again became a human being. Going from slavery to freedom, from sorrow to joy, from mourning to festivity, from thick darkness to great light, from enslavement to redemption. Hallelujah. And Cantor, I don't know if you wanted to sing any hallelujah-ish kind of song.
We can sing Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah.
So now we're going to lift our cups, and you're looking at the background of the Interfaith Seder we had at Grace Farms a couple of years ago, as we come closer to the present and toward a time of hope. But as we lift our cups, if you have a family heirloom, whether it's a cup or something else that you brought to the table, you know, I asked that when I sent out the email, lift it, and we'll go on and maybe point some of them out. Therefore, we are obligated to thank, to praise, glorify, exalt, honor, bless, elevate, and raise our voices for joy to the Holy One who performed all these miracles for our ancestors and for us, brought us from human bondage to freedom, from sorrow to joy, from time of mourning to a festive day, from deep darkness to great light. So if you have something to show, just unmute and tell us what it is. Tell them what they've won, Johnny.
This is my dad's Kiddush cup.
Oh, wait. I got to spotlight it.
Oh, okay. So
there you go, Pam. Beautiful.
So I'm in my late dad's condo where I now live, and he unfortunately passed away, but this is his Kiddush cup, and it has IBG Erwin B. Gerber engraved. And so I did my Seder last night on the lake with this, and I'm happy to take over using his Kiddush cup.
Wow. That is so great. Anyone else with an heirloom? It doesn't have to be a cup. Joan, go ahead. Joan, I can't hear you.
I've told this before at other locations when you've asked. This is one of two brass candles. It's my Shabbos Candlesticks. And my father's mother died when he was young, and his father married somebody basically to take care of the children. And he really loved her because he was little and she took care of him. And when I got married, he gave them to me. And I'm named after her also, Devorah, my middle name. So, and they're very heavy. They're the real thing. They're not these lightweight, you know, they're not going to tip. I love them.
Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. By the way,
And
I'm
I
holding.
have something
Go ahead,
that
Sandy.
I call it a kalashuk. I'm not even sure what it means, but growing up, my bubby Jenny had these small little glasses, many, many different ones that she would give to the little kids to use. And I inherited them, and I give them to Ezra and Asher and Lucas to use on the Seder. And L'dor Vador, from generation to generation.
That's great. So this Kiddush cup that I'm using was a gift of my mother-in-law, of course, passed away a couple of weeks ago, Gloria Eisenberg. She loved Passover, and she loved Jewish ceramics and Jewish art, and bought us our Seder plate. So that matches this cup. Anyway, so we think of her, we're certainly thinking of her tonight. Anyone else?
Me.
Okay.
Me. I also, Joan, have brass candle holders that belong to my bubby, Dora Pearl Moskowitz. And she came from Russia. And the story is that she schlepped these two, again, heavy brass candle holders, and she put them in her bosom and carried these two candle holders with her to this country. They were then in the hands of my brother Stanton. And when he died, my sister-in-law at the time, Arlene, called me and said, Judy, we have these amazing candle holders from your bubby that your brother just loved. Would you like to have them? I said, oh, I would love to have them. And so a few days later, this package arrived at my home with these very heavy candle holders in them that belong to my bubby, my mother's mother. She's the only grandparent I knew, because by the time I came along, all the other grandparents had died. So these belong to Dora Pearl Moskowitz.
Wow, what a story! Just the transport alone.
Both people were named Dora.
Yes.
That gave the candlesticks.
So you got who else has?
I do.
have,
I haven't. Oh, hang on.
Okay. Go ahead, Leslie.
Okay, this is a little different. I don't know if you can get that resolution. Let me see how
It's hard.
It's hard. Okay, let me try it here. Can you see it on this one instead? No, you can't. Okay, well, anyway, this is a Passover Seder.
Yes.
Back in the 1929, 28, 29 before. Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
pull it back and put it in front of your face.
Put it in my face?
There you go.
There you go.
There it
Okay.
is. Yep. And it was here. My grandfather is there. My father was not born yet. And my great grandfather is in the middle with the beard and the I guess with the beard. I'm trying to identify who everybody is in this photo. I've been going through family memorabilia, and we have lots of photos like this. And my dad did keep pretty good records, but I have to try to figure out what the story is behind this. But I know it's a Seder. It does say it was a Seder from 1928.
So cool.
Anyway. Yep.
Wow, that is amazing. So behind me is a Seder that took place in 1935 in Lithuania. So it's doubtful that any of these people survived the Holocaust. But you can see that there's Hebrew behind them. It was a kibbutz. Zionism was so strong in so many of those Jewish communities that they were learning Hebrew, hoping at some point to make it to the land of Israel. Of course, there was no state of Israel yet. And you can see on the right side, Chag HaPesach. So it is celebrating Pesach. You see the family there.
Rabbi Leo has their hand up.
Yeah, Leo, go ahead.
I know we've seen a lot of candlesticks, and I also have my grandmother's candlesticks. My grandmother, Helen Pachter, her yahrzeit is next week. And she was a survivor. And when she came here, she didn't have anything. And one of the first things that she bought when she came was a set of silver candlesticks, which was these guys. And she was so proud of them, and she polished them constantly, and they were always shining. And even like when she was able to like build up a family and have, you know, things that were like really of quality. These like really simple silver candlesticks were always on our Shabbos table and were always really important to her. And she gave them to me when I turned 30, and they were really, now they're my Yerusha.
No, that means inheritance, by the way, everyone. That's amazing. That is what this is priceless, and it's wonderful that we can all be sharing these items that are so priceless. So of the 3 items you would have taken with you from Egypt, I assume that all of these would have been the first item to go. So we're going to now return as we prepare.
Oh, there's one more. There is one more hand up.
I see. I'm sorry. The
Schneidermans.
Schneiderman family.
Yeah, I just don't
go for it.
Yeah, you want to talk, Mom? You talk.
Okay, this is a Schick family Haggadah that was given to my mother as a gift from the synagogue in 1978 with the most beautiful paintings in it.
Wow.
Every page is beautiful.
That's a very limited edition. I know of those Haggadahs.
That's what I heard.
Wow.
So someday when I'm gone, my daughter will have to do the research and find out more about it.
I have a lot to do when she's gone. Because she keeps threatening me with all this stuff I have to do when she's gone.
I also have one, Susan. I can tell you all about it.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I'm not looking forward to that, just so you know, because I want Judy to stay very healthy for a long time.
Thank you. I'll try.
But you've already done the research, so I could scratch this off my list of things to do when she's gone.
That's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
There is one more hand, Joan.
Joan.
I think we might have this may have to be the last one.
You know what? No, that is fine. By the way, this would be the first Seder to end on time if we actually ended right now. So go ahead, Joan.
My grandson was in Poland a couple of years ago, and he found this Kiddush cup in a used product store.
Can you move it to the left
and
just
it's
a little?
It's very old. It has a Star of David on it. And can you see it?
Yeah, there, perfect.
And I was so proud of him to bring it back to me. And it's worn out. Some of the silver is worn off, but it has special meaning because he thought enough to bring it back to me from Poland. So it must have a story behind it. I don't know what the story is, but the important thing is that he thought about bringing it back to our family.
Wow. Thank you, Joan. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad everyone is here with us.
Thank you.
That, you know, I wish we had more opportunity for everyone to talk, but this was a great way to participate. So we're going to now return, and this is where if you have a Miriam's cup, you can hold it up.
Yes.
We'll do the blessing over the Kiddush wine, but you know, Miriam's cup is usually filled with water. Many contemporary women, and I would say not just women, doesn't have to be, pour water into a large decorative cup in honor of Miriam, the heroine, poet, prophet, singer, dancer, who not only saved baby Moshe from the Nile, but led the celebration of redemption at the Red Sea. The water in her cup recalls the rabbi's identification of Miriam with a legendary wandering well that nourished Israel in the wilderness. And, you know, there are actually a number of new customs of things people are putting at the Seder table, which I'll get to in just a minute. Cantor, do you want to do the blessing over wine?
I'm just sorry, I was holding up my water. If you want to.
Okay. No.
Go ahead.
I can do it. All right.
If you have it, go ahead. Right
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, 2 cups down. So now we move to rachza, washing before eating matzah. And again, I'm using the Purell. You know, for those who've been to the Seders we've had on site at Bethel, I've used spray cans, bottles, which is a great way to have fun, run around the table. But I don't suggest doing that with Purell. For one thing, it's too valuable. But wash. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshah mitzotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Amen.
Okay. By the way, the difference between urchatz and rachza is that we add the letter hey at the end. We feel more connected to the holiness of the universe. Hey, meaning symbolic of God's name, and to one another. The hey symbolizes all that. So we now bless our hands by reaching out to help those in need with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, as God did in Egypt. Okay, so now motzi matzah. And here we can grab some matzah. You've been waiting for so long. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. It would have been great to hear like a multiple crunch, but anyway.
Crunch.
Is anyone tired of this yet? I don't know, matzah, not the Seder. No? Okay. So now we move on. Once the eating starts, we get going. Maror. So we take an ounce of raw maror. Horseradish is fine.
Or a couple
Grain
pounds.
Spain. And we put it on the matzah or dip the matzah into it. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us by commanding us to eat maror. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'kidshanu mitzotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror.
Crunch.
Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Crunch.
Now, korech, of course, while you're starting to get, there's no blessing for the charoset, but I want to give you a little bit of background. Really nice charoset reading. Oh, actually, first of all, charosets of the world, things that charoset includes in Calcutta, India, date, molasses, and walnuts. New Orleans, apples, pecans, of course. Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Persimmons. Yemen, sesame seeds, ginger. I mean, it seems like charoset is where we get creative. It's just one of those things. So, whoops. Okay, so just a quick discussion. Not the one on Rachza, you should take a bath every day. The one from Motzi Matzah. Jews in America today are no longer afflicted. True, we are safe and powerful. False, anti-Semitism is alive in the world and lurking beneath the surface in many places. And maror, it's important to remember the bitter moments of our past. True, they make you wiser. False, they just make you more bitter and sad. Let that negativity go. So I'm just going to get one other thing here, if you'll indulge me. Whoops, hold on one second. Because there's a really nice reading about charoset that I got from the Reform Movement's website. And this was courtesy of my wonderful son, Dan, who is here. And Dan, I don't know if you want to, but would you like to read? I'm putting you on the spot, but would you like to do this? And if
I'd love to.
Go ahead.
In the past year of this pandemic, we have consumed a lot of bitter herbs. We, our family and friends, our congregations and our communities have endured terrible losses. We could not endure it if it weren't for the outpouring of caring, support, and love. As we enjoy this year's sweet charoset, let us cherish and express our gratitude for the essential workers, medical professionals, everyday heroes, neighbors, friends, and fellow congregants, whose generosity and dedication provided the sweetness that helped temper the bitters we tasted this year. In their honor this year, consider adding a variety of new ingredients into your haroset mixture to represent the health that came from so many different places and in so many different forms this year. As you add ingredients, you might think about a name aloud or those people who made a difficult year a little sweeter. 4 more questions for Seder discussion. Who have been your helpers this year? See how many different categories of people those who share your Seder can name. Share an example of a time when someone made this difficult year a little sweeter for you. Share a time when you made this difficult year a little sweeter for someone else. What efforts will you make to help others in the months to come?
Okay, thank you. I'll be upstairs shortly. All right, so this is really a wonderful, now we at this point would be eating, but we're gonna ask you to put off the eating. Of course, anyone can leave at any time if you're just starved, what can I say? But we're gonna finish the Seder ahead of time so that you can then have the rest of the evening to enjoy your Passover meal. But we'd love to do that. And so, Cantor Katie, I don't know if you want to do something following the meal, whether
Should we open the door for Elijah? I don't see that somewhere else in here.
Yeah, we can do that.
If anybody wants to get up and open the door, we
Right.
can go do. I'll do it. Here we go. But you won't be able to see.
All right, so while she is doing that, I'm going to read this interesting reading about Elijah. This is from the tablet Haggadah. To imagine the prophet as a kindly old man with a soft white beard. The Bible has some jarring surprises in store. The historical Elijah was a fiery prophet, best known for slaughtering hundreds of pagans on Mount Carmel, a tough-talking, hard-charging man of God who so irked the king that he had to flee into the desert and hide. There on Mount Sinai, he doesn't sound like Santa Claus, that's for sure. God speaks to him and asks him, why the long face? Elijah, never one to mince words, declared that he feels lonely, presumably because he has despaired of his people and their all too human inclination to fall short of holiness. As one legend has it, God, punishing the prophet for his arrogance, commands him to visit every Seder in perpetuity, so that he may see that Jews still observe the old traditions and that there's hope for us yet. I love that story because it adds a lot of color to Elijah, and it's all true. I mean, in terms of biblical history, it's there, but also it's a punishment for him to go from house to house, on the one hand, into perpetuity. On the other hand, Elijah has been going house to house for, traditionally, let's say 3,500 years, and Jews are still having Seders. We haven't stopped. Every year, Elijah's thinking, oh, I won't have to, get all the reindeer together and, fly from house to house, or however he does it. But every year, we disappoint him by continuing Jewish traditions. And the Seder, more important, more than almost any other tradition. So on that, we're going to say L'chaim for third and fourth cups, so that you can at least have done that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Okay, let's sing for Elijah.
Let's sing for Elijah. And Reb Zalman teaches that we can think about when we open the door, what is it that is so profound that we feel that we want to ask Elijah, that we would summon Elijah to our Seders? What are the questions that we're holding dear? And what are the things that we're hoping that Elijah could provide guidance or solution for as we actually open the door? So I invite you to think of those things as well. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera v'hamenu, Yavo Eleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi.
So I think now we can, as you can see, we go from darkness to light, and we go from Egypt to Jerusalem. As we head toward the end of our Seder, we go from despair to hope. The Seder ends, in fact, in an outburst of hope, of longing, with some interesting songs as well. So, Cantor, you want to teach us a song or two?
Sure. Let's sing Echad Mi Yodea. Who knows one? So we'll just do a few verses of this, and then I'm going to get a little bit of help on the final verse from Leo with all 13. But this is taking us through as kind of an instructional song, like a Jewish trivia game. What are all the different things at each level? So it begins. Echad mi yodea, echad ani yodea, echad Eloheinu shebashamayim uva'aretz. Right, one is our God in the heavens and the earth. We say, Shnayim mi yodea, Shnayim ani yodea, Shnei luchot habrit, Echad Eloheinu shebashamayim uva'aretz. 2 are the tablets of the covenant. We'll do a couple more. 3 are the fathers. Shlosha mi yodea, Shlosha ani yodea, Shlosha avot, Shnei luchot habrit, Echad Eloheinu shebashamayim uva'aretz. 4 the mothers. Arba mi yodea, Arba ani yodea, Arba imahot, Shlosha avot, Shnei luchot habrit, Echad Eloheinu shebashamayim uva'aretz. And my family has a tradition of speeding up and going faster and faster and faster. Let's do another one. 5 are the books of the Torah. Chamisha mi yodea, Chamisha ani yodea, Chamisha chumshe Torah, Arba imahot, Shlosha avot, Shnei luchot habrit, Echad Eloheinu shebashamayim uva'aretz. And it goes on and on. 6 are the Mishnah sections, 7 are the days of the week, 8 are the days before circumcision, 9 are the months of pregnancy, 10 are the commandments, 11 are the stars in Joseph's dream, 12 are the tribes of Israel, 13 are God's attributes of mercy. And Leo.
And Leo knows a different tune. Sorry, team.
It's good, it's good. We'll take a different tune.
Shlosha asar mi yodea, Shlosha asar ani yodea, Shlosha asar midaya, Shnei asar shivtaya, Chad asar kochavya, asara divra tisha yarchei leda, Shmona yemei mila, Shiva yemei shavta, Shisha sidrei mishnah, Chamisha chumshei Torah, Arba imaot, Shlosha avot, Shnei luchos avos, Echad Eloheinu, 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 Sheva shamayim uva'aretz.
I bet you many people know that tune as well.
Yeah, that's one I learned in Hebrew school.
So I
liked yours.
We got a mashup. We got a mashup.
I liked it. Yeah, they were all good. Okay, any other songs you want to do?
We can do Haggadah as a group, giving out parts to people, volunteers. So it's
I know, but anyone like so we need people to make.
We need volunteers. So if you either give a thumbs up or something, you get a part. Okay, Hope, I saw your hand, so you're gonna be the cat. Okay, that means every time you're gonna go meow. I need another hand. All right, Leo, will you be the dog? Woof, woof. Okay? This is fun. Everyone gets to unmute and we can go around. So, but we need a few more volunteers.
Put your hand up.
Welcome to the Garden Kaplan Seder. All right, Leslie, you're gonna be the stick that beat the dog. Okay? All right, we need the fire. Crackle, crackle. Who can be the fire? Okay, what is your name there in there with Evan?
Sophia.
Sophia, can you be fire?
Yeah.
And you go crackle, 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 and like fire when it comes time for fire?
All right. You can do it. Yes.
And we can get some help there too. Amazing. And how about water? Somebody needs to be water. Oh, Mia, you'll do water? That's going to be whoosh. Okay. We need an ox. And we always get to this at our Seder, and it's like, who's going to make an ox? Who's going to be the ox and make an ox sound, whatever sound an ox would make? like a more. You can choose. Choose your own ox.
A lower moo.
A lower moo. Are you volunteering?
No, I'm not.
Who's going to be the ox?
You. Go ahead.
Evan,
I'll
okay,
be the ox.
Okay, good. Evan's gonna be the ox. This is very, very fun. Okay, and then we need a shochet that goes like that. It's the butcher that slaughters the ox. It's very graphic. Mom. So you said this is gonna be a family. This would be a family. I like it. Okay, so we have the shochet, and then we have the angel of death. The angel of death is gonna go like this.
Is that like Zorro?
It's like Zorro. It's like a lightning bolt in the sky.
All right, I'll be the angel of death.
All right, okay. And then the Holy One, blessed be, and nobody is going to be the Holy One. And that's how we do it. So we're gonna sing like this. Everyone's gonna sing together. We're gonna go, I guess I'll be the goat. I didn't assign the kid. Does anyone want to be the kid? Bah. All right, your cantor. Brought to you by the cantor. All right. So we start with, it goes like this. Haggadah, Haggadah, Dizabin Abba Bitre Zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah, and came the goat. That my father bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came the cat.
Meow.
And ate the goat. Bah. That my father bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came the dog that bit the cat.
Meow.
That ate the goat. Bah. That my father bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came the stick. Ooh, that's good. That beat the dog. That bit the cat. That ate the kid. Bah. That my father bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came the fire, Sophia.
Crackle, crackle, crackle.
That burnt the stick. That beat the dog. That bit the cat. That ate the kid. Bah! That my father bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came the water that quenched the fire. That's you, Crackle. That burned the stick. That beat the dog. That bit the cat. That ate the kid. Bah! That my father bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came the ox that drank the water, that put out the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid, that my father bought for two. Zuzim Haggadah. Then came the shochet that slaughtered the ox, that drank the water, that put out the fire, that burnt the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid, that my father bought for two. Zuzim Haggadah. Then came the angel of death.
I'll get you, my pretty.
Who killed the shochet, who slaughtered the ox, a lot of killing, who drank the water, who quenched the fire, that burned the... Oh, we did it, the fire. We need the fire again. Crackle, crackle.
Yeah, fire, crackle.
That burnt the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid, that my father bought for two. Then came the Holy One, blessed be. And oh my gosh, help me.
Kill the angel of death.
Kill the angel of death. There's a lot of killing. I'll get you, my friend. No. Who slaughtered the ox? Who slaughtered the ox? Thank you all. Who drank the water? That put out the fire? That burnt the stick? That beat the dog? That bit the cat? That ate the kid? That my father bought for two. Zuzim Haggadah. Oh, you've all been indoctrinated into my family's madness.
Who needs Broadway to come back? Really, we entertain ourselves. Okay, that was amazing. So we're going to conclude now with the Shana Haba next year, right here in Jerusalem. Next year, maybe face to face, wherever we are. Let it be a year of health, of peace, of love for all of us. Happy Pesach. Take us out, Cantor.
L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim habnuya. L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim habnuya. L'shana haba, L'shana haba, L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba, L'shana haba, L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim. L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim habnuya. L'shana haba, b'Yerushalayim habnuya. L'shana haba'ah.
L'shana haba'ah, and everyone have a wonderful holiday. Enjoy your Pesach meal. Think of us while you're eating.
Much.
Thank you.
And Rabbi, thank you so much.
Thank you, so beautiful.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Wondrous to be together.
Hag Sameach. Thanks, Sophia, for your help. That was so good.
If you hang out, I'll do another word cloud. Did anyone like it?
I would love for you to try. We can try that again.
Another time.
Hag Sameach.
Thank you.
Hag Sameach.
Hag Sameach. Chag Sameach.
Oh my God, we have to do it again.
Sameach, everybody.
Thank you.
That was lovely.
Chag Sameach.
Sophia's crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sophia wasn't finished.
My goodness.